Keshni.
Now, back at the drawing table for now, Bulelani.
Well, the issues that we saw today unfolding here in Parliament is that Nehau is reluctant to go back and negotiate with the management of Parliament, arguing that they are negotiating in bad faith. Whilst, on the other hand, the management of Parliament says they are eager to ensure that they get to a speedy resolution of this labour dispute as soon as possible. But what they are saying is that, the union is not making those negotiations very easy because they are introducing matters that are not supposed to be part of an earlier agreement that was reached with the union earlier this year. So at the moment, there were no meetings that were scheduled for today to give both parties some time to actually go back to the drawing board to understand or to see how best to go forward. But we do understand that there are possibilities that the two parties will meet again on Monday.
Bulelani, we've seen a glaring change in the tone of protests as the week progressed. Tempers did flare on Wednesday. How did the union digest the news of the deadlock yesterday? And what was the general mood of protesters today? And what's the way forward for membership?
Well, essentially today, the workers actually came to Parliament to get a report from their union leaders to get an understanding whether there has been any breakthrough or progress that has been made with regards to their demands. Of course, the report was that no breakthrough and there's no progress at this stage. And basically, the union leadership was seeking a mandate from them on whether to call off the strike or either perhaps maybe to push ahead with the strike come next week. And of course, the mandate that they have received is that they are going to continue with the strike. Now, with regards to the tone of, this strike, obviously, there are two competing, issues here. On one hand, the Parliament is saying that the protest by the, workers is not legal because there is a interdict that is in place that prevents any strike or protest to happen within the precinct of Parliament. And secondly, what they are saying that given that Parliament is a national key point, there is an act in place that prevents also similar protests from happening inside of Parliament. So what they are saying is that they are duty bound to actually enforce those two legislation. And therefore, on the other hand, workers are saying that given that Parliament is their workplace, they have a right to protest against their employer. At the same time, what they are saying is that the interdict that has been sought by Parliament is basically trying to undermine, their cause, or trying to make sure that Parliament hides behind legalities rather than coming to the table and negotiating with those matters. But fortunately enough is that over the past 2 days, we've seen a relatively calm situation. But of course, today, police were out in full force at all entrances of Parliament as well as all the buildings of Parliament to monitor any eventualities. Parliament, issuing a statement today claiming that they have received several threats and intimidation from the union to say that there were plans of disrupting or, intimidating some of the staff. But by lunchtime, everything was still calm and the workers actually went off home.
All right. Bulelani, now we're calling this a do-or-die protest. Can you give us a sense of the impact of the strike on the operations of Parliament itself and on the programme of both the National Assembly and the NCOP? We are now into the last few weeks of the parliamentary programme.
Look, Keshni, I think the sittings that were scheduled for this week for both the National Council of Provinces as well as the National Assembly did proceed and went well, except maybe for a few skirmishes that wanted to address the issue of this protest because it's had an impact in terms of movement of people within the precinct. But secondly, we obviously have seen several committee meetings that had to be cancelled because firstly, there were some groups of protesters or striking workers that actually went around Parliament disrupting those meetings. So those meetings had to be called off. And secondly is that there were also insufficient staff to man some of those committees. But all in all is that Parliament has said that it's got contingency plans in place to ensure that the operations of these committees as well as the sittings of Parliament will continue trying to make sure that they run smoothly and accordingly. But of course, what the union is saying is that there were some programs that were forced to be canned or to be cancelled including, the Taking Parliament to the People program because of, still the disruptions caused by this labor dispute. But obviously, we will certainly be monitoring how, going forward, if this strike continues, how those actually affect, the operations come next week.
Thank you, Bulelani. That was Bulelani Phillip coming to us from Cape Town, of course. Let's see what the temperatures are doing in your part of the country.